Who is there who would not welcome certain knowledge of the purpose of life? There must come a time in each one's life when he is confronted with such questions as, what is all this striving in life for? Toward what distant goal is all life tending? The various religions, scientific systems of thought, and philosophies claim to provide answers to these questions, and the great majority of mankind relies upon one or another of these systems. But the ever-changing and conflicting theories as to what we are and why we are here, which they put forward, have only succeeded in filling men's minds with all sorts of misconceptions. Many have been led to believe that life has no purpose at all, that it is but an empty dream, a walking shadow, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. If only men were to think for themselves and to meditate upon birth and death, as the Gita advocates, they would be able to find a soul-satisfying and conclusive answer to the raison d'etre of existence. When we say that life has a purpose, we are not referring to the human kingdom alone. It is stated in the Rig Veda, desire first arose in it, which was the primal germ of mind. Wherever there is embodied life, there is the evidence of desire for a sentient life, for it is the force which has brought into objective existence all forms of life. Desire ever seeks its fulfillment, and this implies purpose. All is life, and every atom of even mineral dust is a life. It follows, then, that every speck, every atom has its distinct mission in the life cycle. The fact that there is harmony behind discords and order ruling chaos implies that life has a plan, a purpose, a destination. Recognizing this fact, the inquiring mind is faced with the why of life's expression in such multiform variety. Everywhere there is a progressive march towards a higher life. Everywhere the impulse to take on a higher form. A stone becomes a plant a beast a man a spirit, and the spirit a god. Thus, there is a series of stages toward an ever-growing perfectibility, extending gradually over millions of years. The universe manifests periodically for purposes of the collective progress of the countless lives, the outbreathings of the one life, in order that through the ever-becoming, every cosmic atom in this infinite universe, passing from the formless and the intangible, through the mixed natures of the semi-terrestrial, down to matter in full generation, and then back again, reascending in each new period higher and nearer the final goal, that each atom, we say, may reach through individual merits and efforts that plane where it re-becomes the one unconditioned all. That is the purpose of life. All growth and development, external and internal, in the lower kingdoms is tending towards the same goal, man. Man is the highest and ultimate form on this earth, the crown piece of evolution, having become such by ascending through all the degrees of intelligence in the lower kingdoms. Life in the lowest of creatures, then, has as much a purpose as the highest of beings, with this difference, that in the case of man, his purpose, whatever it be, is a conscious one, while in the lower forms of life, the purpose is unconscious. Having reached the man stage, the pilgrim soul journeys through various states of not only matter, but self-consciousness and self-perception, or of perception from apperception. In order to understand the why of man's existence, it becomes necessary to see what he is. Man, know thyself, has been the cry from time immemorial, but how many can really be said to know themselves? A little thought will show that we are not our bodies or our minds, because these are constantly changing. And in spite of that, our identity remains the same throughout life. This points to a permanent consciousness which perceives change, but is itself unchanging. The real man is a consciousness inhabiting the personality, an emanation from the divine essence. The man that was, that is, and will be, for whom the hour shall never strike, while the body, the mind, and everything else is impermanent, and hence an illusion. The body has been called the true river of Lethe, for souls plunged into it forget all, their divine origin, their sacred mission, and their final destiny. The understanding of our real nature is essential, because it is this understanding that, when well gained, will determine the purpose of our life, and on it we shall base our actions. Those who look upon themselves as mere bodies will minister to the lower, personal, animal self, and make it the be-all and end-all of life. They will concentrate all their energies and all their mental force on things that do not matter. But those who know that they are in essence immortal beings, emanations of the one spiritual consciousness, will act as such. They will know that wealth, possessions, and lower types of desires will all have to be left behind at death, because these do not adhere to the spirit in man. And realizing this, they will feel it essential, in the words of Mr. Judge, to minister to the needs of the inner man. If we seriously determine to live up to this injunction, it would produce something like a revolution in our lives. It would demand the disappearance of every petty ambition, the destruction of greeds and vanities, the death of fear, an end to the love of self, the attunement of our heart and mind to the great mind and heart of all mankind. But mere intellectual acceptance of such a philosophy is not enough. We have to dwell on it day in and day out, till every thought, and therefore every action, conforms to it. The purpose of our life, then, is to learn to discern the real from the false, to stop making the lower, personal self the center of our consciousness and realizing our identity with the one self, to live in the eternal. We are making a pilgrimage through material life in quest of conscious realization of our innate divinity and perfection. Thus man is an immortal seeking conscious immortality. This involves reaching up to the image of the heavenly man, and ultimately becoming a Mahatma for whom nature holds no secret any of her kingdoms. How do we proceed towards the great goal, which is the same for all, though the means to reach it must vary with each one? It is by learning through the reaping of what we ourselves have sown, gaining fresh knowledge and powers in each life. Life is all made up of learning. It is commonly said that life is a school, where each experience is a lesson for the soul. We have to pass through every trial, thus bringing about our all-round development before we can really embody the truth. But merely passing through experience is not learning the lessons of life. We have to learn never to forget. The knowledge that we have to obtain is not only information from without, but understanding of our own essential nature. For there is that in us which knows, for it is knowledge. Were we once to see ourselves as in the process of learning, our horizon would gradually widen, and we should come to see that process operative on a universal scale. The process of learning is very slow. Life seems meaningless to many because they look on one single life as an end in itself, without forerunner or sequel. But when considered as a series of incarnations, during which the soul learns and develops, receiving its just dues, life assumes the greatest importance. No man can learn true and final wisdom in one birth. Thus, an understanding of the truths of karma and reincarnation is most important, for it endows life with a sacred purpose. We have to strive for knowledge and strength and prepare ourselves, by study and otherwise, in order to be the better able to help and teach others, not in order that we ourselves may climb and make others serve us, as is a common aim. Our purpose is not to reach perfection ourselves, but to help our fellow pilgrims to do likewise. In our view, the highest aspirations for the welfare of humanity become tainted with selfishness if, in the mind of the philanthropist, there lurks the shadow of desire for self-benefit, or a tendency to do injustice, even when these exist unconsciously to himself. Without true sacrifice, life loses its real meaning, for only in the service of others do we touch the deepest springs of our own existence. If we look back over our lives, we shall find that it has been when we have rendered some service, done some sympathetic act for one of our fellow travelers on the voyage of life, that we have experienced a touch of the true happiness which all crave. It is only when we take life as a grand and noble opportunity to serve our fellow men that we shall make it what it should be. To those below us we can give help, and from those on a higher rung of life's ladder we can obtain assistance and guidance. The goal may seem very far removed. At the present stage we can only reach out to it with the mind. Full understanding can come only with perfect achievement. Where shall we begin? The starting point is within ourselves. It is a change in the mental attitude. It is imperative that we think aright, for each man is of the same nature as that ideal on which his faith is fixed. To right thought we must add right effort. All we have to do is live in the best way we can, wherever we find ourselves. We are not to abandon the small plain duties of life. The Gita says, "The devotee who is engaged in the right practice of his duties approaches the Supreme Spirit in no long time." And again, perfection is attained by devotion to natural duty. As we do our best with true devotion, we shall find spiritual knowledge springing up spontaneously within us. Those who live the life shall know the doctrine and know others. As you live your life each day with an uplifted purpose and unselfish desire, each and every event will bear for you a deep significance, an occult meaning. Difficulties need not deject us. If we persevere, always keeping the true purpose of our life in view, and putting forth the necessary effort to fulfill that purpose, we shall surmount all obstacles.